Call of Duty Zombies might not be as scary as it used to be. You could even argue, was it even scary at all, considering that this isn't supposed to be a horror game, and just to me personally, a lot of horror games aren't scary. COD Zombies was never meant to be in that genre, and I just don't think zombies are scary. But over the years, we have had a couple of scarier zombies maps compared to other ones. Playing them now, I'm fine, but I will say as a kid, as a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, those earlier zombies maps, a lot of the time, I wouldn't play solo. Not necessarily because of the zombies themselves, but the atmosphere of the maps. I can point out Verrucht, Kino der Toten, Shino Numa, Kino, 5, Call of the Dead, for BO2, Transit, but then Black Ops 3 onwards. Maybe this does have something to do with my age. As more games came out, I grew up with them. I not only became used to it, but typically the older you are, the less scared you get. But I do think the earlier days of zombies was relatively scarier in brackets compared to what it is now. And if I had to pick 3 games, it would be World at War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2. And if I had to choose which out of the one I think was the scariest of the bunch, I'd probably say Black Ops 1. I think it's a close one between this and World at War. Considering BO1 had more maps, I'm going to say this game just edges it. But they're very close, and I don't think there's that much difference. The maps are relatively similar in terms of style. I don't think there are many things, if anything really, that would make BO1 less scarier than World at War, and vice versa. The mechanics, the artwork, it wasn't that different. So for me, Black Ops 1 Zombies was the scariest COD Zombies game we've had. Kino der Toten, 5, Call of the Dead, Shangri-La, Ascension, and Moon. I always say there are 3 different things that go into making a zombies map: the storyline, the gameplay, and Easter eggs. In my humble opinion, Kino, 5, and Call of the Dead are the scariest of the bunch. Shangri-La, not so much, but there is something about that makes it a lot different to the rest. How small that map is, how tight it is. I would say it's more anxiety inducing, not necessarily as scary. Ascension being the easiest map is one of the reasons why it isn't, and Moon is a bit of a strange one because I think there are parts of it that could be considered terrifying. I hate using that word, it sounds too much, but the area where the MPD is located, especially when the power is turned off, it has certain aspects to it, but for me it is Kino, 5, and you could also put Call of the Dead in there as well. Kino der Toten really did have it all. It was a dark, dreary, damp, abandoned theatre. That kind of location alone is a great setup for a scary zombies map, but for me it was its Easter eggs. Beware of the 6 written on the wall. To this day, do we really know what it means? Is it referring to the 6 as in the Nova 6? Is it referring to the 6 as in the Hellhounds and what rounds they spawn on? And if we just look at the Hellhounds, they are terrifying. There was an Easter egg where from inside of one of these boxes you could hear knocking, clearly indicating that somebody was trapped inside of here, trying to get out. Again, we don't know who, but the idea of that, especially being claustrophobic. When you teleport to the Pack-a-Punch room in Kino and then you are teleported back, before you arrive at the main teleporter, for a few seconds you are teleported to 3 or 4 different random rooms. The dentist's office, let's be honest, going to the dentist is scary, no one wants to go there. The conference room, and 2 different versions of Samantha's room, a nice version and then a destroyed, zombified, hellish version. And seeing this as a kid made me grateful that we were only here for a few seconds. And the whole idea of us teleporting to these rooms was so that we could collect projector tapes, and when you pick it up and put it into the projector and it plays, on the screen we see loads of different random imagery. An eye hints towards the Illuminati, the Undead, Group 935 and their experiments, not only adding to the story, but it was just a reminder that Kino der Toten wasn't just a normal abandoned facility. There was a lot of horrific shit that went on here. And my favourite Easter egg of the bunch, which I've always loved because of the theories and ideas behind it, although we know the answer, but there was always still that bit of mystery because there are pods you can find around the map and inside of them you see are heads of the undead. We only see their face, but we can imagine that within each one of these pods is a zombie. But I remembered when this was new in 2010, people were saying, well, what are these? Are these Nova 6 crawlers inside? Are they zombies? Obviously, we know they're zombies, since this was one of the main places where they were making the undead army for the Nazis. But seeing this process, and seeing the way that zombies were just packaged into these small pods ready to be sent to the Germans to use for the war, is an idea that you don't really want in your head. And one thing I think Kino did really well was the sound design, adding to the atmosphere, whether it was the generators powering up, the teleporter creaking, just little miscellaneous sounds in the background, added to the creepiness. So I think Kino was the scariest map on BO1. Close to it for me was 5, very different in terms of gameplay. Kino I think was relatively easy and chilled back if you're a good zombies player, but I think for anyone, no matter how good you are, 5 was difficult just because of how tight it was, similar to Shang. There aren't as many scary Easter eggs on 5. Of course we had the Nova 6 crawlers and how they were made, mixing pig DNA, and you could just find them all around the laboratory either dead or ready to be experimented on. There was a Pentagon Thief, which was a character that every time I saw running towards me trying to steal my weapon. It's one thing seeing a zombie coming towards you, you kind of get used to that. It's another thing seeing, enemies such as the Hellhounds or the Crawlers, which are not slow enemies, but you can kill them before they reach you. However, the Pentagon Thief, you're probably not going to kill him before he gets to you, and even though I knew what he was going to do, that always scared me, especially when he made sounds like this. And the final map in Black Ops 1, which I think is close to rivaling Kino in 5, was Call of the Dead. Probably my least played Black Ops 1 map, because I was scared of playing it. And I think the reason for that was George. I do think without him on this map, I would have played it so much more, but having an enemy constantly follow you, the same thing happens on Moon, but the astronaut is nowhere near as scary looking, and what he does to you if he catches you, in my opinion, isn't as bad. But having George follow you all of the time, having to constantly look over your shoulder, being aware of where he was, and then trying hard not to anger him, that combined with the fog, the snowstorms, the lack of visibility, just seeing his glowing eyes coming out of nowhere was, I've said this so many times in this video, scary. And another thing I have to give Call of the Dead credit for is similar to Kino, the sound design, the noises that you would hear as you were playing, well, just take a listen. Like I mentioned, I don't think Shangri-La necessarily was as scary, you could say, than a Palm Zombie, watching him slowly coming towards you. Ascension, there were the monkeys. I like the fact that it was black and white when you loaded up, but I don't think the map necessarily was scary. And Moon, the MPD, that whole area before you turn on the power, and when you do, seeing the MPD power up, kind of gave me goosebumps. Overall, Black Ops 1, I think, was horrifying for the time, for the age I was. Now for me, Zombies doesn't have that, even though I think Treyarch have probably tried a lot harder than what they did in games like Vanguard Zombies. You could see where they were trying to take it down the more horror aspect, but it didn't quite work. And maybe some maps in Black Ops Cold War like Kino der Toten, but Black Ops 1 nailed it with most of the maps. And World at War, you have to give that credit as well. So yeah, there we go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hopefully you've enjoyed the video today. If you have, drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest content on the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.